Welcome to Vice and Easy, your podcast for all things Miami Vice, with your host, Marina. Hello, and welcome back to Vice and Easy. This week, we are breaking down Season 5, Episode 3, entitled Heart of Night. Before we get into it, just wanted to thank you all for your support. I am hoping to get back to a regular posting schedule. Again, thank you for bearing with me. Just, things just keep piling up. I'm really looking forward to some boredom. Let's just say it that way. But let's get into it. This week's episode, like I mentioned, Season 5, Episode 3, entitled Heart of Night. Per IMDb, the synopsis is as follows. A conflicted Castillo protects his ex-wife from a drug lord who is trying to kill her and her new husband. Well, first, let's touch on that. That is not a new husband. It's the same husband from last time. Completely different actress, but the actor was in Golden Triangle, who is now the husband, Ma Sek. And let's just get into it. We open up at a beautiful, I don't want to say gala, political party, well-dressed, cocktail attire, I guess, maybe not a gala. It's supposed to be taking place in Ecuador, but since I just went there like a month and a half ago, that is Vizcaya Gardens in Miami, and they really set up beautifully. And I'm also going to touch back on it because we do revisit. Well, I guess it's not a spoiler. You can see it in the thumbnail that I selected for the YouTube video. Also takes place at Vizcaya Gardens. So kudos. I really enjoy it, and everyone looks beautiful. I do love, so there's one guy in like a very military Comandante uniform as they're welcoming the new president of Ecuador, who, surprise, surprise, for the 80s in Latin America, is a interesting choice. And a surprise to no one, this CIA plays a decent-sized role in this episode. So let's get to it. Now, Ying, Castillo's ex-wife, is definitely not happy with this man as president. She fears for the country under his rule. But before that, they're going to shake hands, they're going to kiss some cheeks, and they're going to play nice at this gala. Clip 1.
It's a hell of a time to be here.
Tony, what a jet setter you are. Where are you off to next?
Who knows? Maybe I'd try Brazil.
Tony, if I had a life like yours.
Masek, if I had a wife like yours. Excuse me.
After the new president is introduced, they clearly are not fans and head off. And obviously they are in a very nice Mercedes-Benz. We have another man in a military getup guarding the gate. And as they drive off in what kind of looks quite secluded, like they're not really driving down a main road, it's revealed that they're two gunmen who are hiding in the backseat of their car and attack them. And unfortunately, this scene escalates, but here you can hear a little bit of Blood Money.
Message!
The song Blood Money by The Church as they figure out what's going on.
¿Qué padre? Muy alegre arriba. Tenemos que decir, I'm afraid you made a mistake. Cállate.
So as they're hijacked by gunpoint, they're forced to drive deeper and deeper into the jungle where it looks a little bit more secluded. They try to reason with them, say they're not American, doesn't matter. They started saying really creepy stuff about her, Mei Ying, and as they have Ma Sek at gunpoint, one of them is trying to assault Mei Ying. And that's when, luckily, something happens. She kicks him so hard, it grabs the other guy's attention, and Ma Sek is able to get back in the car as Mei Ying drives off, runs over one of the guys, and they GTFO. We cut to the credits, and then we open with Sunny. everyone's commenting that he's back and that it's Sunday. Why is he working on a Sunday? Was that always part of his normal routine? Like, it's trying to normalize it, but Castillo, unfortunately, brings it down to earth.
Lieutenant, look who's here. You think it's Crockett?
You, Rico.
See you on the wanted poster, son.
Charges have been brought against you in the murder of a Detective James Yagovich. There's a number of homicides that are being investigated in the Manolo, Carrera, and Gato families.
I don't know anything about that.
Are you saying that you didn't have a hand in the killings?
I don't remember anything after the explosion.
All right.
Oh, man, this is hard. Castillo, he's there for business, but he also just tells Crockett to just take some time off and he'll reach out in a few days as this kind of all gets settled. And as Castillo goes home, something feels off and he can tell. His door is unlocked by the looks of it because he puts the key in and then gets a reaction. His house is super cool with the spiral staircase. We've seen the house before, but I haven't had the opportunity to see it at this angle. And it looks really cool. As he has his gun out, he's casing the house. He runs into Mei Ying upstairs. I will laugh at the camera work just in this scene where it's kind of like janky zoom up to both of them, both in their faces. I was just like, but it's suspenseful because, he was thinking that someone had broken into his house. It turns out he had given her a key to his place in Miami. If she ever needed his help, that's where she could go. So she tells him about what's happened, and there's one part that she really can't shake, and you realize later on this episode why.
I keep hearing that sound over and over. The body hitting the car.
You had no choice. You saved your husband's life and your own.
He's more worried for me than for himself. We took separate flights over here.
Tell me, who were these people?
Masek isn't sure. It could be a man named Rivas.
Well, the husband does not know that she's staying with Castillo or meeting with Castillo. But then this scene hits hard. She's driving with Castillo, and Castillo asks about her son.
Where's your son? Who's taking care of him?
He died, Martin.
I'm sorry, Mei Ying. How?
It was a car accident. I was taking him to the dentist in Rio, a drunk driver. I didn't see him coming. Smashed into us head on. I couldn't do anything.
You can't blame yourself.
That's what everyone tells me.
I understand that's the usual Castillo way. And it's not that he doesn't sound sympathetic, but I was like, that's a really heavy story. And just like, you can't blame yourself. All right, moving on. We see some boxes leaving a warehouse. They're dolls and little birds, bird dolls. Oh my God, toy birds. And we see the company name, Phoenix SA. Remember that. As they're loaded into a truck, they're on the highway. It is unsure if it's in Miami or Ecuador, where it is pulled over and the goods of the boxes are rummaged through by clearly not cops. You can definitely see in the gallery, which you can see the gallery of each and every episode of Ice and Easy in its respective episode description. So definitely check that out. It's a very fun way to keep up with the episode and also to see the things that I can only kind of like half-heartedly describe with my voice that you can much see better with the picture in front of you. So Castillo's driving her to this, I thought it was a fancy hotel and like that it was like the Mayfair Hotel in Coconut Grove. No, this really was an Embassy Suites by the Miami Airport, according to my research. So according to Miami Vice Wikia, this is just an Embassy Suites, but it's gorgeous. Because there is a sign that says Embassy Suites, but I was like, no way. But maybe they want the PR from the episode. And maybe it was just very different almost 40 years ago. Just everything was better, you know, in terms of travel quality and what you would get for your buck. So yeah, maybe I will take back. But because the courtyard is so green and lush, I really thought it was the Mayfair again. It's not the same design, but you know, like with the little lampposts in the middle. I was like, maybe, but I was wrong. We can see that obviously people are watching them. Masek has arrived separately. He and Castillo talk. It's obviously an awkward situation for them to be in, but doesn't really sound that awkward when they're talking about it.
I know this is hard for you. It is for me, too, asking my wife's ex-husband for help.
I can understand that. I just have to know who and why.
10 days ago, my boss from Miami came to Quito. He told me to deliver a package to a man, Rivas, a businessman. I gave it to him just as he asked. But the next day, I get a visit from Rivas. He told me he had not received what he expected.
Okay, so now things are starting to come together with his story. There was a part of the episode, the scene just before, that I wasn't able to take a gif of, and I really wish I had, where basically Masek doesn't talk to my Ying. He just calls over Castillo. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt because it looks like he's trying to protect her in this scene. You can't see my eyes, but they're rolling so far back into my head. Yeah. So just keep that in mind as we go through this episode. But however, this does not last long as they are spotted. A shootout ensues in the hotel. I do have a very funny gif, unfortunately, of this poor waiter getting shot. And he just flies into this customer's seat. His arm goes around the customer. I'm so sorry. Obviously, he's okay in real life. But it's like comical the way he did. Sorry, I had to take a break to stop from laughing. And you can probably tell, I don't know if I have a cold, but I definitely have a cough. So you can tell like I'm getting like a little bit like phlegmy and dry. And yeah, so I had to like take a step away from the computer. Because as this scene wraps up with the shootout, Castillo is the one that protects and comforts Mei Ying while the husband pieces out. Ooh, well, Castillo's going to keep doing some work. Turns out that he knows Malcolm Gray. Could this also be a company connection? Because it's definitely a Southern Hemisphere connection, as you'll hear in this next clip.
Malcolm Gray, he runs Phoenix SA import-export business. One of his trucks was taken down yesterday. Driver killed.
What was he carrying?
Strange toy birds.
Anything else?
Yeah, the truck just picked up the shipment from an Ecuador cargo plane yesterday afternoon.
And as Castillo notes, Masek also flew in yesterday from Ecuador. Interesting. Well, let's go check in on this Malcolm Gray. Obviously, him and Castillo know each other, but let's hear him describe his own business. Now, before we start this scene, I have been trying to desperately identify this laptop, and I think I have it. But what was really throwing me off, it looks like he's putting a stylus, like inserting a stylus into an opening on what would now be the screen of the laptop, but in 1988 could be something different, or like he was getting different numbers. I was really trying to see if I could find this. It was really hard, but we shall see if I got it right, because I believe that it was the NEC ultralight. If anyone can actually ID this, please let me know.
Funny you should call. I was just thinking of you a couple of days ago.
Really?
Yes. At my age, the memory begins to sputter a bit. What was the name of that restaurant in Bangkok? The one on the river near the Oriental Hotel. Their specialty was ngu hao papet, king cobra.
Chao Pryor Restaurant.
Chao Pryor Restaurant. Thank you. I'm going back there, you know. My company's opening an office there.
Your company? Which one?
Are you telling me that an import-export impresario might have multiple shady companies throughout the world? No way.
You're still active in the Southern Hemisphere.
Oh, I am. But only in the private sector these days.
You had a Thai by the name of Mosek that worked for you in Ecuador.
Martin, a lot of people work for me. I only wish I had the time to meet them all.
You made this man your personal envoy.
I'm afraid that's classified, Martin.
Ooh, classified. Like, that was a light bulb that went off for me and for Castillo, because when he's talking to Ying in the next scene, they're both worried about Mosek. And then we have this beautiful song by Joe Cocker playing in the background. And then Castillo finally asks, well, the reason why she didn't tell him he was a company man.
There's a high possibility that he works for the CIA. You knew. Why didn't you tell me?
I couldn't, you know that. When we were married, I never told anyone what you did.
He lied to me. Ying, I don't know what his involvement is in all this.
He's not involved. He told you.
Okay, so now that it's set up that this is a lot deeper, contrasting to this very romantic song, the song's name is The One, by the way, then I love that Castillo just goes straight for it.
Do you still love him? Do you?
Yes.
So the next scene is her in the morning at Castillo's house making tea, and Castillo whispers, "You look natural here." My notes are just, oh my God. Yeah. I'm not surprised. And don't feel bad for her husband, because you will see more of his true character at the end of the episode. But yeah, scandalous. Someone knocks and she goes upstairs. Castillo then tells her that he's going to have somebody with her to keep an eye on her to make sure that she's safe here. That someone is Trudy. However, we see Mosek, her husband, walk up to a payphone. Then later, there's a call, a wrong number at Castillo's. Trudy's just kind of minding her own business, cutting peppers in what looks to be a kind of dangerous way. I'm not an expert here, but I've cut enough limes and lemons in my time where I'm like, I think her nails should be facing the edge to grip on, but it just seems like the knife and the side of her finger are right parallel to each other. And I thought you're supposed to have your knuckles and your nail parallel to the knife to prevent slippage. I really did slice one of my fingers last year on a bagel, so I will tell you, I'm not an expert, but just that scene, I was just like, that just doesn't seem right. My Ying, though, says that, she's going to go look for something, swipes Trudy's car keys as Trudy's looking down, talking actually about how nice of a guy Castillo is, how great of a boss he is, and that he, really helped her with her first shooting back in the Dutch oven. If memory serves me correctly, Kraka was more on her side than Castillo, but I digress. So she runs off with Trudy's car and the keys, backs out of the driveway as Trudy comes out, trying to chase her. However, Mei Ying doesn't make it too far. She is followed, and then he pulls up right next to her. It's a sleazy looking guy that gives her a really uneasy smile, a smile that's there's darkness in that smile, I'll put it that way, and we'll see that later on in the episode. The car gets blocked in, she gets plucked from the car, and she is kidnapped and whisked away. Cut back to OCB. Castillo is really forlorn, looking down, and he really feels bad, and Trudy really feels bad, and she really wants to take the blame in this next scene.
I blew it. I just let her walk right out on me, let her go.
Was there a phone call?
Yes. A wrong number, I thought. But of course it was Masek. I don't see how Rivas' men got so damn lucky to find her on the street before she could meet him.
There's no luck involved.
That reminds me, I was talking to somebody about this week about, professional coaching and tips, and there really is no such thing as luck. It's preparation meets opportunity. In the words of Robert Evans, I hope I'm attributing that quote to him directly, but I remember when I heard that, I was like, yeah, that there is luck, at a casino, but in life, usually it is as a result of hard work and opportunity meeting preparation. I love that. But bad luck. Let's go check in with Mei Ying, because unfortunately she is tied up in a mansion. Basically, the information, they want to beat it out of her. They want to torture it out of her. And this is a really rough scene, and it gets rougher. So trigger warning and my apologies.
He stole my money.
He didn't steal anything. He's a good, decent man. He's not like you.
And remember that really sinister smile that I was mentioning a few minutes ago? Well, the holder of that smile is one of Rivas' goons, and it is strongly insinuated that he rapes her, and I believe he's the same goon who was talking about raping her in the first scene in Ecuador. And before we return back to this scene, Castillo goes to Gray's office, crushes TF out of his hand in his drawer to get the information as to where Mei Ying is being held. Good for him. And this is when we cut back to the house, and we see that slimy guy put on his shirt again and button it up, and she's bloodier and she's really despondent, but unfortunately they were able to get that information out of her.
Need the name of the warehouse.
Please, I'm sick. I must use the toilet.
First the name!
Warehouse 4, 7 o'clock.
We're in luck. That's an hour from now. I should have thought of that before. No woman could tolerate you.
Oh, this scene is just so icky on so many levels.
Fucking thing sucks!
Yep, that about sums up my mood with that. But let's... Sorry, I'm not trying to laugh. Just the set design of this next scene is kind of laughable. The outside, obviously a Chinese restaurant. The inside, there is a little bit of back padding, but you can see in the gallery just like how crappy the cushion is in the booth. And then, okay, this is Bartender Me talking, and Bartender Me is going to have a lot more to say next episode. But whenever I've had to chastise or kick people out for bringing in their own booze and they don't get it, and other bartenders who claim that they have all this experience, all this skill, and then bring in outside booze and drink it in front of us at the bar, this is why we can't let this happen. Because as you can see in this scene, this guy brings this bottle of wine, Masek, not this guy, for his business partners. And then we see the cut of him putting something into this bottle of wine. He pours 2 glasses. Also, if someone's pouring you a drink that they themselves are not drinking, and I'm not talking about sober bartenders either, because that's also incriminating me, think twice. Because, surprise, surprise, this is poisoned. And again, please go to the gallery because I'm laughing at the gray images and like the cut of them choking and dying at this restaurant. Clearly, a server or someone would have noticed and would assume that it was a piece of food and given the Heimlich maneuver. This is just very preposterous to kill 2 people in a restaurant. That, again, doesn't look dead. Doesn't matter. There's still people there who would have either your credit card information, possibly. Well, this is also a day where you use cash. Because it is funny, every time there was a fight at the bar, just pull someone's info up with their credit card. I was like, that's not smart. If you want to commit crimes, be a little smarter. What was it? There was this TikTok of this lawyer, and it was like, don't do crimes, and then it was like, unless you cover your tattoos. I was like, oh, that's funny. But yeah, I just find that incredibly unbelievable. And this is why, if you think it's cool to bring in your own booze, also be smart about it. I used to bring in my own booze and then drink it in the bathroom and throw it out. I wouldn't drink my own booze and then leave it at the table for the server to pick up and then obviously kick me out. Happens a lot, trust me. Even though I've retired, it happens a lot. But sorry, I did not give any credence to that scene. Ha 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 ha. Basically, he kills them because Masek kills them because he figured they were going to cut him out anyways. So now we're getting to see the true side of Masek. It gets worse. Hold on. But wait, there's more. Oh man, sorry, my notes are just like, what is this? This is so preposterous. This would never happen. You can't just kill people in public with poison wine. Wouldn't they have asked any questions? This is basically what I've scribbled to myself, a la Good Will Hunting. But let's check in with Riva and his goons at the warehouse. Okay, so the rapist goon in Ecuador sounded a lot different because this to me does not sound like an Ecuadorian American accent or, a first generation Latino accent. This sounds like pure, I don't want to say Staten Island. I'm not the expert on New York regional accents, but this feels a lot more New York to me.
You found it? Where?
In the back. They hadn't processed it yet.
The accent also comes again when he's like, yeah, boss, can I open this box? I don't know. It's kind of funny. I'm like, kind of stick with an accent and continue on that through the entire episode. But there is some good news as my Ying and those goons are at the warehouse waiting for Masek to arrive. Or waiting for the shipment from Masek. Castillo and the team are casing the fancy mansion. Zwitek actually comes in clutch and has some good news. He says there are these weird markings in the bathroom and they look like symbols and numbers. Well, it's Thai, she was clearly making a note to Castillo so he could come find her, which is actually very sweet.
It's Ty.
What's it say?
Warehouse number 4, 7 o'clock. Let's go.
I knew that.
So back at the warehouse, and we know that Vice is on the way because Castillo was able to decipher that message. It turns out that package that rapist goon had been wanting to open was rigged. It just blows up, and the shit occurs. Goodbye, goons. Goodbye, Rivas. Castillo and my Ying talk, and my Ying still gives her husband the benefit of the doubt when Castillo can see what he's really been doing, and then it slowly dawns on her that he set her up. He knew that she wouldn't publicize what he did for a living, just like she didn't do with Castillo, and that she wouldn't give up information easily, which makes you think that he basically set his wife up to be attacked and raped to protect himself. Back at OCB, there's a feeling that he has an accomplice. So they talk more with my Ying. Dimitri, remember from the opening party, comes up. Turns out when Gina calls the Coast Guard to check about his boat, turns out he's having some engine issues and will be coming into the harbor. Whew. Castillo doesn't want to let my Ying come on this new bust, but when she says that, what if he doesn't have the cash? How is she going to get them to talk? Turns out that she can be super useful. So basically the Vice Squad minus Crockett go to stake it out. There's a really good gif of Gina just tapping a guy on the shoulder, telling him shh, and then pointing at gunpoint, leading him away. Really cool, happening down at the port naturally to help with the Coast Guard. This is where Mei Ying gets to confront her backstabbing husband, part 1.
Surprised?
Yes. Then you're all right.
I'm not dead. Rivas is.
Now, as the scene goes on, please note that my notes are, damn, I don't buy it. Get him, sis. Because then he drops this.
You could have slaughtered our whole family in revenge.
What family? That all died with our son.
That won't work anymore. You can't blame his death on me forever. You gave up. You used his death as an excuse, a cheap reason to steal, kill.
Not cheap. Real. Listen to you. You who were protected by men all your life. It's easy for you to have your glowing ideals. Try and live where I do.
I wouldn't wish for that, for the hell you've made of your life.
You know nothing. Yes, I stole from Rivas. Money he stole from America. From Gray and his partner who were thieves themselves. That's what the world is. 1,000,000 grubby hands grasping for money.
This is when he notices her wire.
You betrayed me for him! Castillo! Let her go!
She should have also slipped in the fact that she slept with Castillo as he's doing this. Wow. Yeah, my notes are just like, wow. He tries to flip it on her. Whoo. And like his trying to reason, well, so-and-so steals and so-and-so steals, so I am. And whew, this is tough. But luckily, Castillo takes him outside, kicks the crap out of him with cool martial arts skills, and holds my Ying, or is with my Ying. They're very close. He's not exactly holding her, but he's stoically standing, and she has his arm around him as they watch his mangled body. And he gets arrested. Goodbye. F out of here with that. Wow, what family. Whoo. Well, good for sis, good for my Ying. I should do like the nail emoji. But this is a very beautiful final scene as Castillo and Mei Ying part ways.
I love you, my husband.
And are you my wife?
It is super sweet, and once again, I'm going to tie it back to my recent trip to Miami. I actually stood and took pictures on this. It was not as beautiful because it was not golden hour, but you were able to kind of like get this vibe. I didn't go out as far as Castillo did. I think it was roped off, but this final parting scene of Vizcaya Gardens is beautiful. However, before we end and do best music and fashion, all that, so she's single. She doesn't have to go back to Ecuador. I understand she might not want to be in another relationship right away after her previous husband set her up to be raped and possibly killed. Why don't they get back together? Why doesn't she just extend her stay in Miami for a little bit? I understand needs to give Castillo this backstory of, he can't be with his true love of his life. But yeah, that's not really explained why she just doesn't stay. Maybe she's going back home to Thailand. That would make more sense. But it is very bittersweet. And it's an episode that actually ends on a nice note. So yay! Naturally, in a Castillo-themed episode, there's not a whole lot of wardrobe changes, and the rest of Vice doesn't really come in much in this episode. Mai Ying's white dress, where she's walking with Castillo at his house, gorgeous. I just love the structured neck and like the kind of the billowiness of the sleeves. Trudy in green this whole episode looking like $1,000,000, and I really like her earrings in this scene as well. Naturally, my wild card is going to be unnamed goon, because it's not the rapist, it's not the other guy, but just with like the long mustache, the open shirt, and the gold chain. Chef's kiss. And I didn't list them on the Imager page on my gallery, but definitely for interior decor, I really love the way that they set up Vizcaya Gardens as an Ecuadorian palace, or the presidential palace in Ecuador, and then also the Embassy Suites airport, just killing it. Gorgeous, this episode. It is nice, kind of fitting in with the theme of Castillo and his house and what he surrounds himself with. That like lush green theme just really resonated this episode, and I actually really liked it. I didn't like a lot of things about this episode, mostly the rape and the husband just setting up the wife. But yeah, visually, great episode. Honestly, I do enjoy the Castillo episodes because it's a different pace. You get to kind of get a glimpse into him and who he is. And they tend to be really well done, well acted with good guest stars. Now, if you haven't noticed, as I've already kind of pointed out, Joan Chen played Mai Ying when she was first on Miami Vice. This is Rosalind Chao, obviously. And then Ma Sek was played by the guy who was Howie Wong in Golden Triangle. So just kind of funny how things work out. And the casting differences, I understand, like 4 years later, someone might not be available. It's a different beast altogether, but I thought that was funny. Then with music this episode, the final song is very cheesy, but again, that's kind of what we need. And that's how the episode ends, and that's called Dark Truce by Joan Armatrading. Wow. I have no idea how this name is pronounced. I do apologize. It's a little cheesy in that it's too on the nose with its lyrics, but you know what? Castillo needs a little bit of happiness in his life, so let's give it to him. I also really like the one by Joe Cocker. That's when they talk at the beginning, when they talk at his house. And then when he's like, do you love him? Hey, he's like, what is it? Just because there's a goalie doesn't mean you can't score. So let's give it to Joe Cocker this episode. Other songs were Blood Money by The Church and The Kiss by The Cure. And I do love The Cure, but let's give it to Joe Cocker this episode. And as we wrap it up, the quote of the episode, there's not a lot of comedic relief in this episode. So let me weigh my options, but I think I know the front runner.
It's Ty.
What's it say?
Warehouse number 4, 7 o'clock. Let's go.
I knew that.
When you list it on the resume and you can't actually deliver. Well, with that, it was nice to at least have somewhat of a happy ending for my Ying's husband to be arrested and for her to live her best life, although I think her best life should be with Castillo. And with that, we are wrapping up this episode of Vice and Easy. Once again, thank you all for listening. Thank you all for subscribing. Thank you all for the positive comments and the follows and the likes. You can find me at all things social at Vice and Easy Podcast. And next week, you'll get to hear me lecture on about bartending as Crockett goes on vacation before he really gets back into the force. And things naturally, like they have for this poor man for like the past year, go horribly awry, except for a spunky bartender. And we will be back next time. Thank you so much again for listening, supporting, and as always.
Hey man, Miami Wise is #1 new show.